Multimodal emotion recognition via spiking neural networks and graph convolutional networks. Human emotion is embedded in many sources of information. These include text transcripts, speech utterances, facial expressions, and body language. The problem of human emotion recognition resolves to using these sources to identify an underlying emotion from a discrete set of possibilities. The problem has been addressed through several approaches. For example, Jiao et al. Developed an attention-gated hierarchical memory network for real-time emotion recognition using only text, and Mito et al. Introduced a multiplicative strategy and proxy vectors to fuse facial, textual, and speech cues to provide a more robust classification when individual sources of information are corrupted by noise. So far, these approaches either fail to consider all sources of information involved in human emotion or only focus on information fusion at late stages of the classification. Differently, the Sync graph network, implemented in this project by Mansouri, Bensassi, and Ye, uses a bio-inspired spiking neural network that allows cross-talk between speech and facial expressions in videos to construct neural synchrony graphs, and then applies a graph convolutional network to learn the neural patterns and classify emotions. The spiking neural network was implemented using the Brian simulator in Python. Video frames are filtered using a Laplacian over Gaussian filter to extract contour features from faces in OpenCV. Mel frequency septal coefficients were also extracted from audio tracks. The video and audio features were used as firing rates of Poisson spike trains fed to the network. The architecture involves groups of excitatory and inhibitory neurons for both modalities and allows cross-modal connections between the two. Neurons that fire together and produce spikes within an integration interval of 150 milliseconds are connected in a neural synchrony graph. Videos from the interface dataset were used, which involved 6 emotions and over 1,300 videos. The neural synchrony graphs, represented by adjacency matrices, are used as input to a graph convolutional network. The network was implemented in PyTorch and was composed of 3 convolutional layers. The layers use spectral convolutions, which means that every layer is a linear layer with a nonlinear activation, and the output of every layer is multiplied by the normalized graph Laplacian of the adjacency matrix at every step. The last layer is a pooling layer, and the output is one of 6 emotion classes. The training of this network is done using backpropagation with Adam optimization, cross-entropy loss, and a dropout rate of 0.5. As far as evaluation and results go, several technical difficulties arose that created problems. First, the paper lacks details on hyperparameters of the SNN and parameters of video and audio feature extraction. This means that the SNN couldn't be implemented fully as the paper suggested, and feature extraction of our video and audio had to be done using the default parameters of the LOG filters and the MFCC filter extractor. Furthermore, the Brian simulator does not support GPU acceleration, and it was found that only 60 videos were processed within 10 hours of dedicated CPU time. Because of all of this, a reduced architecture of the SNN was tested, but it did not produce enough data to train the graph convolutional network. Despite the technical difficulties, feature extraction of video frames and audio tracks was possible. The input of this data into the SNN was able to fire neurons on the network at reasonable rates. Here we see a time series of firing activity in which each point represents a neuron that fires at a specific point in time. Also, the temporal dynamics of the biological neurons of the SNN follows a normal behavior and are biologically realistic. Here we see the membrane potential of 2 neurons that fire within an interval of 50 milliseconds. Finally, the neural synchrony graphs are sparse and do not reflect an overexcitation of the neurons. This means that patterns may be salient enough for a GCN to learn them. Here we see a zoomed view of an adjacency matrix in which 2 neurons were connected after they fired within the same temporal window. The zoom-in view is for an adjacency matrix of 10,250 neurons. Thank you.